sample collection is key to get a good diagnosis of whatever's going on in your landscape. It's important to know what we need to be doing, whether we're sending the sample into the diagnostic clinic to myself, or we're going to be taking the sample directly to our county extension educator. Today we're going to be looking at how to sample trees or woody plants, and also along with turf. Right beside me right now is we have a Scotch pine, and we have some dying branches. The big key when we are sampling, we don't want to select the branches that only have brown dead needles. This makes it very difficult to get a real good diagnosis. We're going to actually be selecting a branch over here that has brown foliage, as you can see here, but it still also has some green foliage associated with it, so we can see the progression of the disease from the start into the new foliage and get a better identification of what's going on. And we're going to show how to sample it and how to package it and send it in real nice into the diagnostic clinic. When we're sampling for turf, we're doing the exact same thing as we were with the trees. We're going to be taking a sample that represents the symptoms that we're seeing, but we're not going to take the tissue that's really dead and already dying. That makes it very difficult to actually get a good diagnosis. We get a lot of other fungi and other organisms that are living in that area. So we're going to take a sample from the border edge of that discolored area, or where our leaf spots are at. So here we have some turf that have some leaf spots occurring. All we're going to do is we're just going to take a small subsample of it, and the best way to do it is actually cut the sample out of the ground and not actually pull it out. We're going to be looking for a segment that is at least 6 inches in diameter. Square, round, it doesn't matter, but at least 6 inches. That way we have plenty of tissue to work with. So we're just going to dig the sample up, and we're going to pick it up from the root base, pull up all the roots. That way we can also see if we're having any problems with thatch or nutrient problems or anything like that, so we can figure out what's going on overall in the sample. So we've collected our samples from our tree and also from the lawn. Now it's important to know how to actually package the material together and send it into the Plant and Pest Diagnostic Clinic, or even dropping it off at your local extension educator's office. The first thing is knowing what size of bag to be using to put the samples in. For trees, usually using old shopping bags is a good way to put the sample in there for shipment. It prevents the needles or leaves from falling off. For turf and other herbaceous plants, different sizes of storage containers, whether they're 2.5 gallon, quart, or even snack size bags, are great to be using to put those samples into. Once we have it in the package, we need to be making sure we're picking out the right size box. There's a lot of variation in boxes. If we get a big box, the other big key to use is different packing materials, whether we have old bubble wrap, or if we're using newspapers left over from the week before that we're stuffing around that sample and making sure it's not moving during transportation and not knocking off any more soil, needles, or leaves, and making it a lot more difficult to actually get a good sample diagnosis. We've collected some great samples, and here are some basic do's and don'ts when we're looking at sample collection. Some of the major do's is making sure we have a great example of everything that we're seeing in the landscape, showing disease and also showing some healthy portions of the plant. The other do is to making sure that we're sending the sample early in the week, usually Monday through Wednesday, to make sure the sample is in good quality once it arrives there. The other big do is making sure you're providing as much description about what you're seeing out in your landscape. What time of year are you seeing it? What is the distributions? Is it only in low spots or high spots in your landscape? Also, what type of plants are we dealing with? That makes it really useful information to get a good identification of what's going on. Some of the basic don'ts: never add water to a sample that we're sending into the clinic. It makes it very soppy and very difficult to identify. Also, don't let your sample sit around for a long period of time. As it gets warm, it starts to degrade. If you can't get to the sample to the post office right away, stick it in the refrigerator. It will do just fine right there in the refrigerator. And the last don't mail it on Thursday or Friday. It will sit in the post office over the weekend, and the sample will completely degrade and make it very difficult to get a good diagnosis. If you follow some of these basic rules of do's and don'ts on sample collection and submission, you're going to have a great diagnosis at the end of the day, and we're going to be able to help you with whatever problems you're having in your landscape today.